peaceful workplace, a non-hostile work environment, are those rights being violated by the WNBA? And at the very least, there's a portion of this that says maybe WNBA leadership should at least have to go sit in front of some people and answer some very uncomfortable questions. Lord knows I would love to see that, because Kathy Engelbert and Adam Silver, it seems to be nothing to see here. Please move along. Now, I've seen a lot of fans just come out and say, hey, they're assaulting her, it's battery, yada, yada, yada. And the WNBA has turned a blind eye to this treatment. So let's check this out right here. This is by Sean McLean. Now, it talks about the fact that Caitlin Clark has basically done for the WNBA what Michael Jordan did for the NBA, right? The NBA, right? Instead of protecting its transformative star, the league's leadership ignores the relentless targeting of Miss Clark, treating its greatest asset as if she were a PR headache. That approach could turn into legal liability for the WNBA. Okay, well, get this. Get this. We're watching this play out. Caitlin Clark's been hurt.
Teed up. You're out of here. That referee must have been scared to death as Brittany Griner is towering over her, reaching out with her long neck and getting all in her face. But let's start with Kahleah Copper. If you guys missed what Kahleah Copper had to say in the postgame, let's take a listen, shall we?
Did the league that just had its biggest year in ages also create the toughest court for its biggest star? That question isn't going away. And the longer it hangs in the air, the more the season feels like a test of what the WNBA wants to be.
I think she handled it well. I don't understand, like she's a legend and just all the things that she's done for the league.
Stop. What has DeWanna Bonner done for this league? That's a genuine question. Let me know in the comment section below. What has DeWanna Bonner done for this league?
A league that embraces hard, competitive basketball, or a league that confuses tough with reckless and waits for the worst-case headline to finally act. Let's start with the obvious. This season didn't just grow, it exploded. Ticket searches spiked, arenas filled, and a rookie's jersey shot to the top of the charts. Highlight clips weren't just visiting the timeline, they were living there. You could feel the momentum in every away arena, where the crowd suddenly looked more like a playoff atmosphere than a routine June doubleheader.
We're watching in front of our very eyes how differently these teams are treating the Indiana Fever without Caitlin Clark on the court. I mean, let's just be real. It's been much different. The level of physicality has very obviously ratcheted down. It's been tame, downright tame. We want to talk about Caitlin Clark's performance.
People who hadn't watched a full WNBA game in years were tuning in. You could call it hype. You could call it a cultural moment. Either way, it became money, real money, for teams, broadcasters, and the league office. And when that kind of money shows up, everything changes. Opponents feel it. So do referees. So does leadership.
Everybody's bragging about this 5-game winning streak. That is great. But Caitlin Clark doesn't get to play under these circumstances, where these girls are just going out there and playing basketball. That doesn't get to happen for her. It goes on to talk about what she's done to viewership, league subscriptions, 366%.
Prior to 2023, no casual fan, probably still no casual fan, has any idea who DeWanna Bonner is, couldn't pick her out of a lineup, other than teach these new players how to fleece an organization, how to rob an organization blind, how to quit on your team. Other than those three things, what has DeWanna Bonner done for this league? Genuine questions. I'm open-minded.
A league has two choices. Protect the product, meaning the stars, yes, but also the quality of the game, or pretend nothing is different and hope tradition is enough to carry you through. Most leagues pick the first option. This season, the WNBA picked something else. At least, that's how it felt to a lot of fans watching the most replayed clips of the year.
Engagement on app, 613%. Merchandise sales, 601%. Yet she routinely faces intentional hits, excessive fouling, and uncalled abuse while referees look away. Teammate Sophie Cunningham said what fans already know, quote, "The star player of the league is not being protected." Interesting, because you do realize if they call in leadership.
Because this story isn't about one viral moment. It's about a stack of them. It's about a pattern people recognized before anyone in charge seemed willing to say it out loud. It's about a rookie who carried an audience on her back and, at the same time, carried shoulders, hips, elbows, and forearms that too often went unpunished until the discourse demanded a second look. The inflection point arrived early. Chicago, Indiana. The clip you've seen 100 times. The hip check that turned into a days-long debate. In real time, it was whistled like a garden variety foul. Then the internet did what the internet does. Pause, zoom, replay. The tone turned from hard basketball to that's not normal. A later review upgraded it to a flagrant.
Because you do realize if they call in leadership to ask questions of, they're going to call in some players too. She'd be an interesting one to call in and just have her give her opinion. Miss Clark herself noted, quote, "Everybody is physical with me. They get away with things others don't. 3 injuries have sidelined her for 10 games and the All-Star game. Ratings plummeted 55%. It goes on to talk about the fact that Asia Wilson.
She's a quitter. Money that we could have used on a free agent that actually has mental fortitude, that's mentally strong, not mentally weak. We could have went out and signed them to help us actually turn this team into a winning team, try to help us build toward the future. Instead, DeWanna Bonner and Stephanie White talked to each other in a dark room and said, yeah, I'll get you over here to Indy. DeWanna Bonner comes in, takes the money, gets replaced by Alexi Hall.
Media fines followed for the lack of post-game access. And instead of calming the season, the upgrade was gasoline. Fans thought, if that needed a second look to be called correctly, what else is slipping through? Then came Connecticut and another viral moment. Arm extended, impact clear, star to the deck, flagrant 2, immediate ejection. That wasn't a gray area. That was a decision you make in the moment when safety is at stake. But the conversation didn't stop with good call. It pivoted to the next day and the day after. Would there be a suspension? Should there be? And when the answer was no, the message felt mixed. On paper, ejections are supposed to be a deterrent. In practice, it didn't feel like enough to shift behavior, not with the way the season had already tilted toward extra contact on one specific player. Now here's where it gets touchy, because the next part is about protection, and people hear that word and think favoritism.
I'm open-minded. Let me know in the comment section. I'm not saying she hasn't been in the league a long time, but throughout that time, what has she really done to elevate the league? She ain't Diana Taurasi. She ain't Maya Moore. She ain't Candace Parker. She ain't Brianna. So what has she really... Moving on.
And just the disrespect, I can't get down with it. They booed her. She didn't say a word to the...
That's a lie. DeWanna Bonner definitely said a word. Don't worry, Kalia Copper. We brought the receipts.
They hear star treatment and imagine free trips to the line and phantom whistles. That's not what this is. Protection doesn't mean your best player gets to play defense with their hands or earns a bailout on every drive. Protection means you enforce the rules that already exist. Freedom of movement, verticality, excessive contact, consistently. It means when a player is targeted off the ball that you don't shrug and call it physical. You call it what it is, illegal.
These kind of things, she said that race is, quote, a huge thing, and it boils my blood when people say it's not about race, because it is. Under civil rights law, race-motivated patterns trigger scrutiny even without explicit discriminatory intent.
Hard basketball is bodying up, fighting through screens, and taking a charge. Reckless basketball is blindside contact away from the play, forearm shivers above the shoulders, and two-handed shoves into the stanchion. One sells the sport, the other sells MRIs. And here's the fact no one in a press conference wants to say out loud, everybody knew who the cameras were there to see. That changes human behavior. Opponents want to send a message. Refs subconsciously don't want to look like they're bending to hype. The league doesn't want the story to be, is this just the Caitlin Clark show? Because there are legends on veteran rosters who deserve their flowers. All of that is real. All of that is understandable.
Not what she wanted or whatever, but it's just we don't need all of that. It's just unnecessary.
Cry me a river, cry me, cry me. Cry me a river, cry me, cry me. Cry me a river, cry me, cry me. Kalia Copper, you know that she quit on the team, right? You know that she quit on the team. She quit. She's a quitter.
None of that justifies letting the rulebook get fuzzy because the spotlight is bright. Watch closely and you'll notice another pattern that fans kept pointing out all summer. When she sits, the game gets calmer. The pushes get smaller, the bumps get closer to normal, and suddenly the floor spacing looks like basketball again instead of bumper cars. Is that measurable?
We brought the receipts.
The crowd, people talk some trash to her, but we had her back.
What? I'm doing a lot of pausing here. Kalia Copper, how'd you guys have her back? If you guys come in and get ran off the court, how'd you have her back? If you come in and you lose the game, how'd you have her back? If Satu Sabali shoots 3 for 14, how did you guys have her back? You guys came out in the first quarter on a mission, and then you proceeded to fall apart mentally.
Analysts tried. Some pulled foul rates and contact frequency estimates from tracking. Others did the old school thing. They rewatched possessions and tallied bumps. You don't need a spreadsheet to feel the difference, though. You just need to watch a quarter with her on the bench. If the standard for contact changes based on one player's presence, that's not physical basketball. That's selective enforcement. So why would a league let that happen in a year when its upside has never been higher? Follow the money. In every major sport, stars are the engine.
Quarter on a mission, and then you proceeded to fall apart mentally. This Phoenix Mercury team fell apart. You know, the boos were only meant for DeWanna Bonner. I mean, if booing one player causes the whole team to fall apart, hey, Indiana, we should just start booing everybody in this league. Seriously.
But it's just very distasteful for what their fan base is doing.
Damn.
As far as when it comes to DB, because it's like she's just the sweetest soul, and the situation didn't work for her, and
That's not an insult to role players or defense-first squads. It's a statement of economics. Stars sell national windows. Stars sell jerseys. Stars turn a Tuesday night into an event. And because stars are the engine, most leagues make an unspoken promise. We'll let the game be the game, but we won't let the game eat the people who make it matter. Think about how the NBA curbed hand-checking to open up perimeter offense in the early 2000s, or how roughing the passer protections in football keep quarterbacks upright. These weren't charity. They were investments. When the most valuable people are healthy and on the floor, everyone gets paid. The WNBA has been in growth mode for years, building brick by brick. But this season felt different because the growth wasn't gradual. It was tidal. With that surge came a responsibility that no press release can dodge. Set the standard for what's allowed and what isn't. Not after the replay center gets involved. Not 2 days later when the league office upgrades a clip and hopes everyone moves on. In the moment, on the floor, while everyone is watching. And yes, this story got louder because it touched every sensitive nerve in modern sports. Marketing, legacy versus new era. Who deserves the push? Who's overhyped? Who's getting the calls and why? It also brushed up against bigger conversations about race, about how coverage is distributed, and who America roots for in the first place. That's fuel for any discourse, and it ensured that every borderline whistle turned into a referendum on something beyond basketball. If you hate that part of the conversation, you're not alone. If you think you can take that part out of the conversation, you're dreaming. The league doesn't get to pick which conversations happen when it's cashing the checks that come with unprecedented attention. Let's bring the conversation down from the clouds and back to the rulebook. Pro basketball has a few simple pillars that govern physicality. Freedom of movement means you can't chuck cutters off their line or hold a shooter on a curl. Verticality means defenders get to go straight up, not into a player's landing space. Above shoulders contact is a red flag, so is excessive or unnecessary contact away from the ball. None of these concepts are new, and none of them were written to protect any single athlete. They exist to protect the sport. If fans spend entire nights arguing about whether a star is being hunted like open season while whistles sit silent, something bigger than one possession is broken. Now, there's another layer here that exploded across talk shows: the legal angle. People threw around phrases like hostile work environment and quoted cases most of us only see on law school outlines. Here's the plain English version. In employment law, a hostile work environment isn't about one hard foul or even a handful of rough plays. It's about conduct that is severe or pervasive enough to change the conditions of employment. Sports complicate that because conditions of employment here include physical contact as part of the job. That means the bar is different than it is for an office, but different doesn't mean non-existent. There's a line between tough play and unsafe play, and leagues are expected to keep work conditions, yes, even on a court, within reasonable safety standards. Players don't exist in a vacuum either. There's a union, a collective bargaining agreement, and disciplinary processes that balance player rights with league interests. That structure is supposed to deliver consistency. When fans don't feel that consistency, when similar plays get called differently across nights, or the same player seems to live on the wrong side of 50-50 whistles, trust breaks down and the legal language starts creeping back in. That's how you know the communication has failed. When the debate stops being, was that a foul, and becomes, are we actually talking about workplace safety now? So what would getting it right look like? First, clarity. Everyone, from rookies to legends, from road benches to home fans, should be able to describe the standard for flagrant contact the same way. Second, speed. Post-game upgrades have a place, but the biggest moments of the year can't rely on next-day fixes. Third, transparency. If the league believes a play was handled perfectly in real time, say why in clear language. That becomes a reference point for the next crew. Fourth, consistency. If a star is seeing repeated off-ball contact that crosses into illegal, blow it dead early. What you allow in the first quarter writes the script for the fourth. There's a cultural piece here the league has to balance with the rulebook. Fans aren't asking for a non-contact league. They're asking for a league where the best players get to showcase actual basketball without fear that a back screen turns into a blindside hit and a headline. There's a difference between letting them play and letting it slide. The former feels like playoff intensity. The latter feels like negligence. One keeps people glued to the broadcast. The other makes them flinch. And speaking of broadcasts, the numbers told a simple story. When the most talked about player was on the floor, eyeballs followed. When she was out, interest dipped. That doesn't mean the league is one player deep, and it doesn't erase the brilliance of veterans who've been carrying franchises for a decade. It means exactly what it says. The season had a centerpiece, and everyone benefited when she played free of nonsense, which brings us to leadership. Commissioners in modern sports don't just negotiate media deals and announce expansion. They set tone. They define the line and stand on it when emotions spike. They explain choices when the crowd wants blood and hold firm when internet mobs demand suspensions that the rulebook doesn't support. Silence isn't neutrality. It gets read as indifference. If the league believes its refs are getting the big calls right, it should show the work so crews across the country can match the standard. If it believes behavior crossed the line, it should move quickly and clearly. Ejection here, suspension there, and a public explanation that closes the loop. The jealousy subplot that dominated so much chatter didn't help. When opponents talk spicy, that's part of sports. When it spills into obvious targeting or becomes the oxygen that fuels cheap shots, it's the league's job to bring the focus back to basketball. Veterans deserve respect. So do rookies who show up and tilt the landscape. That's not a contradiction. That's the minimum standard for a professional league that wants new fans to stick around long after the first wave of hype fades. And let's give credit where it's due. This season also delivered elite basketball. Rookies learning on the fly. Veterans turning late game possessions into masterclasses, coaches adjusting, benches surprising, crowds living and dying with every run. The highlight packages weren't just built on controversy, they were built on skill. Deep threes, pocket passes, weak side rotations, and the kind of pace that makes 40 minutes disappear. That's the product the league is selling. That's the product that needs protecting. Here's the uncomfortable part. If leadership doesn't act until a catastrophic injury forces its hand, the growth story could flip in a single night. That's not doomsaying, it's history. Every sport that resisted obvious safety fixes eventually bent after a big one. The WNBA doesn't need to wait. It can tighten standards now, not to pamper stars, but to guard the game from the kinds of moments that turn a breakout year into a cautionary tale. So, what does the fix actually look like on Tuesday night in a packed arena? It looks like calling illegal off-ball contact early so defenders adjust. It looks like being strict about above-shoulders contact even when the crowd hates it. It looks like coaches challenging the right plays because the standard is clear. It looks like a league office that releases quick, plain language explanations after flagrant reviews that become the teaching tape for the next crew. You change behavior by making expectations obvious and consequences predictable. Will the discourse calm down if that happens? Probably not entirely. The culture war angle guarantees noise. But the basketball will get louder than the noise, which is really the entire point of all this. If the basketball shines, fans stay. If the basketball turns into grievance theater and injury compilations, they don't. Let's end where we began. Did the league that rode a historic wave also allow the game to get unnecessarily hostile for its biggest star? If your answer is yes, then the fix isn't complicated. It's not a brand new rule book. It's the current rule book, enforced with a spine. It's leadership speaking clearly before the internet forces the issue. It's making sure the face of the league and the veterans who built it get to battle at full speed without junk plays deciding outcomes. Maybe that sounds too simple. Maybe it is. But the best solutions usually are: blow the whistle when it's illegal, let the rest be basketball. So here's the question for the WNBA going forward. If you had to choose between protecting the hype and protecting the game, which one would you pick? Because the truth is, you don't have to choose at all. Protect the game and the hype protects itself. And if that happens, this year won't be remembered as the season of controversy. It'll be remembered as the year the WNBA realized just how big it could be and decided to play even bigger.